Ooh, look at all that sexy. We all updated and modern. Look at that.
Hell yeah.
What is up, everyone? I want to give a really quick special shout out to Mezzo, our wonderful director, who's putting together all of the cool effects and graphics that you will see tonight. Well, tonight won't be quite as many as you'll see on Sunday nights, but still fun nonetheless. How are you doing tonight? And I want to give you a special shout out real quick, just in case you had to bounce in and out because you're not necessarily here, but you're not here. You're like a neutron, right? You're here.
Oh, at one point I'll just kind of be in the background, like I'm a background actor for a bit.
You're like the ghost in the attic.
Yep.
How are you doing tonight?
Good. How are you?
I'm groovy. I'm excited about tonight. Tonight, I've been looking forward to tonight. I've had people messaging me, telling me that they were excited and waiting for tonight.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah. Of course, well, you know what? I'm gonna do our introductions to everybody first, and then I will tell you about what my dumbass did today. Fours, how are you doing? So good to see you, my friend.
Hey, Van, what's cooking, man?
Force is everywhere.
He is everywhere. I'm sure you're staying busy with May 4th and people wanting sound fonts and updating their sabers.
Yeah, let's assume that. No. There really is a plan in place. I just plan to do a couple things a little different.
Okay. Well, I will be excited to see what's going on with that.
But it's Kyber time. Let's go.
Mercedes, what is going on with you?
Work.
What is going on with work? Too much of it? Not enough of
it?
It?
Yeah. There's just so much of it.
Right. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, I mean, both.
I mean, you're making money, right?
Yeah, and I'm making sure people can wash their clothes.
As a mom, thank you.
Clean clothes are very important.
And why I say it's good and why it's bad right now because parts are really hard to get right now.
Mm-hmm. Parts are hard to get.
Welcome in, Darren. We have a new chat. Someone who's new to the channel in our chat named Darren. So welcome.
Hello. I think that's Let's Create. I think, or at least that
he came
icon
over.
Looks like.
He came over from Distance Nerding Podcast.
Oh yay! Thank you. Look, see, I'm wearing my Distance Nerd. It's only because I only have like 5 T-shirts that I own that I actually wear out in public, and my Distance Nerding one is one of them. It is so good to see you here. Thank you for tuning in. We have very interesting topics for tonight, and one of them, Miss Sleepy Sapphire herself, was the originator of the idea. So, and this is AS. Oh, look at that! Let's write it. Let's see if I can change these up. Oh, look at that! It feels like a Transformers, like I feel like all of our faces. Or Moon Knight.
We can join. You might want to move over a little bit, Forz. Just move over. Move that way.
You're crowding me out.
I'll squish you further.
I'm squishing your head.
Oh my goodness. Hold up.
So we were talking about ASMR, and I was like, well, I know what ASMR, but what exactly, do you guys, what would you want to talk about it? And it occurred to me that both of you guys are kind of audiophiles, right? Fours spends his time listening to intricate sounds and knowing the difference between little minute changes in noises so that he can create all these incredible fonts so that even if they're all, Jedi fonts, they sound different from one another. Mercedes, as a singer, you are somebody who is constantly listening to other people's voices and listening to your own voice and trying to, perfect that. So I can see how this topic might be of interest to you guys. What are your guys' thoughts?
Well, first, I would say for our viewers, go ahead and let's have the definition.
You know what? That's very intelligent. In fact, you know what? Let me get some of these.
So I will go ahead and describe what ASMR is. ASMR, in if you want the exact definition, is the what is it? Acronym of it is autonomous sensory meridian response. So basically, it's not only just audio; it can also be a visual thing. It is what
Visual.
they call is what is they call a trigger. A lot of people have misunderstood what ASMR really is, only because uh, a lot of people believed it to be like a sexual thing. A long time ago, a lot of people viewed it as such, or they viewed it as it's only like people eating. But actually, what ASMR really is it's like when you were a baby and your mom or your dad or someone was talking to you like very softly to get you to go to sleep.
Right.
Well, whatever that trigger is for you, whether it's the whispering or the touch, like touch of your face, it's a trigger sense that activates the dopamine or the chemicals in your body to help you go to sleep. So there's actually a wider variety of ASMR than just audio.
Wow.
Like,
I had always associated it with audio, and then on top of that, like we were talking about how, like there's certain sounds that I guess are okay, but there are
mhm,
certain sounds that are so cringy to me,
mhm.
like hearing somebody chewing out loud, and then I know that there are whole like YouTube channels and like you know people that's their jam. You know what I mean? They
That is
love to hear a person eating.
yes. For everyone has a different trigger, and it all goes into just finding what your trigger is. What they call for if you find something like when people find ASMR for the first time and it's something that it finds them cringy, they kind of turns them off from ASMR. But what they don't understand is they don't realize that they need to find that trigger. They need to find whether whispering is their ASMR trigger, tapping. Did I say whispering?
Yeah.
Okay, role playing, um, things like that. Like there's the hand touching on
Right.
the camera where it kind of it makes you think that they're it's like a meditating thing kind of. It's
Wow.
relaxing. It's whatever you find relaxing. And when you don't get a trigger for if you keep searching and you can't find a trigger for yourself, then that means that you are trigger immune,
Right. You're trigger immune.
which means ASMR is not for you. But you could keep trying if you want to find it, or you kind of have to let your mind just take whatever that trigger is to
Right.
find it. If you're really having like trouble relaxing or going to sleep, sometimes people even listen to it while they're studying as well.
Right. Right. What are your thought fours as our resident font maker here? You spend I was explaining to people that you spend a lot of time listening up close to intricate sounds and maybe listening to things that most people may not notice about sound. What are your thoughts about all these? I mean, are they fetishes? I mean, like I guess when you say fetish, that ties it into a sexual thing, right? But does a fetish always have to be sexual? Like I don't know. I mean, I guess, like I said, there are people that are into this ASMR, and I just like I don't get it. Even if I was laying there asleep, I know there's ones where there's like people crinkling paper. You know what I mean? And like that's some people's jam, or some people like the sound of like cities or traffic, and some people like the sounds of people
White
chewing and
noise.
eating food. There's something for everybody, I guess. What are your thoughts, Forrest?
And some like a really clean, smooth microphone.
Yep.
I'm kidding. Okay, so back to what Mercedes was saying. Not everything has to be audio. What immediately came to my mind, and I'm not even joking when I say this, Dr. Pimple Popper. That is a major thing. Like I went
Yes.
there once and I was like, "Ew." So I got out of there really quick. But no, I understand. There are folks who find, I guess the word is comfort. They find comfort in the sounds. They find comfort in what they see. The trigger, what you said was a fantastic way to describe it. For you know, you're looking at a fandom like what I'm into, trying to get just the right sound. You know, a lot of folks who purchase what it is we do, they're looking for that right sound. They're looking for what's probably going to take them back to their childhood or their teenage years or their favorite movie. You know, that's part of the intrigue. And then of course you've got more. And God, I really didn't want to talk about this tonight. This is Kyber Cave is my escape from Sabers. And here I am talking about it.
Everything in life is always about sabers. It always comes back to sabers.
I know. But no, she made a fantastic point. It is very much a trigger. It's very much locating that comfort. I would even dare say security blanket. Would that be a correct piece of vocabulary to use? A security blanket.
Huh.
That's my 2 cents on it anyway.
Yeah.
I guess maybe maybe it could be like akin to smelling a certain smell when you're a child,
Yes.
or something, or smelling it as an adult and then going back to a childhood memory. I like what Mercedes was saying about it being tied into, you know, kind of like your neurons, and just like as a baby. I was a preschool teacher, so early childhood development was something that I spent a lot of time studying. And you know, that makes sense to me because particularly in those first months, babies don't have eyesight, right? Or they can't see much past a hand's length away. That's why, you know, the breast and breastfeeding is so, you know, important, because a baby can't really see much past that. But they hear the cooing of the mother, they hear the heartbeat of the mother, right?
Yep.
And so I guess I could understand how this is maybe almost like a primal thing. Really quickly, I want to say what's up to Isaac. Let's Create. Thank you for tuning in. Yeah, and Let's Create makes a good point about the slurping of the food in Japan, and how you know, even different sounds. My stepfather was telling me one time he had a family that was visiting from India, and where they were from in India, like you didn't leave the table unless you let out a good burp, because a good burp was a sign that you've been fed and that you're content. So like, you know, sometimes, you know, this little boy be sitting there, he's ready eaten, but he's like he won't leave the table until, you know, he lets out a, you know, a good wallop and burp. So I guess different sounds, you know, can mean different things to different people.
Right. Also, with what Dodden said with the noodle eating with the ramen, yeah, the loud slurping is definitely encouraged. When I lived there, I actually wouldn't say that I actually heard a lot of that.
Loud slurping?
In the 1 year that I've been there, I've been to a lot of ramen places, and I have to say I have not heard like loud slurping whatsoever. Everyone's always been so what you would call conservative.
Right. Right. I know
It's
there's definitely
really
rules like not putting your chopsticks in the noodles standing up, and
it means in China that would technically mean that you are accusing them of incest. If
wait,
you
what?
put your chopsticks in your rice and not to the side,
Right?
apparently that means you're accusing the cooks for incest.
Wow, holy shit. You gotta wonder where that came from. You know what I mean? Like that had to start somewhere.
I don't know. I just remember reading about it. But yeah,
How
it was,
specific.
I know, right? Now, for ASMR, it's definitely not for everybody. I always say that. I've said that in my ASMR streams before. I've said it in my ASMR videos before.
So you
That,
do ASMR videos?
yeah.
Really? Okay.
I have a
So
separate channel for that.
like, and you have an audience, like a following for this?
So I actually, when I used to do ASMR on Twitch a long time ago, I actually had a higher viewer base
Mhm.
and a higher engagement base than I did playing video games. So I would say that
No
my
surprise.
is ASMR. Yeah. I
Really?
would say that my specialty is ASMR because I mean I've been watching ASMR for over 5 years, over 6 years. So like I've seen the both sides of the picture for people. I've seen the comments, I've seen uh what people don't like or what people do like. So it's kind of I can see where the higher trend is, the higher thing that people go to.
Right,
But I
right.
like to go into the non-common side of ASMR because people can watch the same thing over again and will develop a trigger immunity if they keep watching the same thing over again. But there are some people that could watch the same thing over again because that is their major trigger and be
Right.
fine. But there are some people that can fall out of ASMR because they watch the same type so much that they end up putting themselves in the trigger immunity. So what I liked to focus on were uncommon ASMR triggers, which mine was like lullabies, Japanese lullabies or English lullabies, things like that, where it's just soft echo singing.
Right.
And then sometimes it's not about just the ASMR, it's also the person. So you have to find all different kinds of ASMR people to really find if like say yours is whispering and you're not getting it from one YouTuber ASMRist, you'll need to find that voice that does it for you. So it could be like a deep male voice or a female voice or just the way that their voice is, because some people either develop like either they have a dry voice and it doesn't come out right, or they have uh, a wet mouth, I guess, a naturally wet mouth, and it just
Hmm.
comes off. The words come off a bit different
Right.
than dry mouth would. And some people can get the trigger from a dry mouth, and some can get it from a wet mouth. It
All
really
right.
depends.
All right. Forrest, you got that buttery voice, man. It sounds like this. You might have found a new calling, dude.
That's I look, I learn something new every Friday. I join this, and I'm so thankful for it.
You never know where we're gonna go.
Hey,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
she's describing all this stuff, and all these things are coming to my mind because I used to think about it a lot. It's like, okay, what are some triggers for me? And one thing that was always like, all right, this will make you laugh. My friends and I used to come up with these ideas for Geico commercials because for a little while, Geico was having these nuts commercials, right? They would bring in different people, they play these songs, right? And it's like, what's better than saving 15 whatever. Um, and I always thought Morgan Freeman reading you a bedtime story. And
All
like,
right, right.
Oh yes.
could you imagine like Morgan Freeman reading you a bedtime story? He's like, it's like you and your wife are just tucked into bed. You're just kind of laying there. And then all of a sudden, I do not like green eggs and ham. I do not like them, Sam. I am, because this is how we roll. And then excuse me, I need you to stop your talking now. I'm going to go to the next page. I do not like green eggs and ham. I could
Oh
listen
yeah.
to that. I could listen to Morgan Freeman for hours. And I guess that's kind of like my ASMR, he's like, because he's got that smooth, low tone, buttery voice that you just
Right.
Oh
kind of
yeah.
appreciate. I could do that all
Oh
day.
yeah.
I'm gonna stop now. Don't let me get into Gandalf because that'll be next.
You
But yeah,
So some people just have that voice though that is that just kind of resonates across different things. And
yeah,
so okay, so I can understand, and I guess if you listen to Freud, everything goes back to sex one way or another, right? Everything goes back to like wanting to mount your mom or your dad or whatever it is. But with ASMR, like, do you think it's, I don't know, like almost like a primordial thing, like it's kind of like hardwired into us to listen to different sounds? Of course, when we were hunters and gatherers, we were constantly surveying nature and listening for that saber-tooth tiger that's going to pounce out from the woods and eat us or whatever. So and maybe we are like, and I've often thought I've often thought it was really weird how, like, some people just friggin' connect to heavy metal, right? And I'm like, dude, I don't understand a thing that lead singer is screaming about right now. But like, homeboy's feeling it. You know what I mean? Like, he is all about that music, and I can respect that. You know what I mean? Like, people just, when you find your I guess your universal tone or your rhythm or your sound, like, people just seem to connect to that. What's up, Drama, Gideon, and Steve, and of course Isaac? Thank you so much for tuning in, and Mezzo. So what are your thoughts on that?
Um, so what's interesting also about ASMR, I'm going foggy brain. Is like right now I'm listening to my fan right now. That is an ASMR trigger for me. So
When you
like
say trigger, what does trigger mean?
ASMR trigger means that it's activating like ASMR. It's activating ASMR. It's triggering my ASMR. So it's making me sleepy. It's causing the chemicals to react more now. So I hear my fan in the back. That is ASMR.
Right.
Because to me, that is my sleep. That is the thing that helps me go to sleep.
Me
That
too.
is ASMR. And sometimes actually a lot of people can experience ASMR without knowing it.
What you just got me to thinking about is
Hmm.
I've spent a lot of years working with people who deal with autism, and a
Hmm.
lot of them will say that they have too many sensories coming in at the same time. Sometimes you'll see people walking through the mall with headphones on because there's just too much, they're picking up every little noise that's happening, whether it's a kid screaming over there in the food court, or some kid, a
Hmm.
group of kids laughing over here, or somebody, they're hearing everything all at once. Whereas I guess, a typical person is still hearing it, but they're able to kind of block certain sounds out and like focus on, Mercedes and I are having a conversation here in the food court, so I can listen to your words as opposed to the burgers dropping at the McDonald's or the mop being slung over here.
Yeah. It's definitely a focus thing.
Hmm.
So if you do have autism and you can't focus, then for them too, they know for themselves what helps them focus.
Right.
If it means putting headphones on and shutting out the noise to keep that rhythm going. And then there's people who can literally walk down in the mall and listen to all of it because also can get a sense of trigger from it. Everyone is different. Everyone has a different trigger type. Maybe when you were younger, you were introduced to the public at an early age and you're used to it, or you're not, and you can't focus with all that noise.
Right. Right.
So
Y-
they need to find that one thing. There's people that can find that one thing that triggers them. And sometimes a lot of people don't even realize that they're being triggered.
Hmm. So does it go back to like subconscious things, or like are people able to like kind of control it and know what their, I guess, triggers are?
I guess it would really depend on the situation. Because in like hyperactive situations, if you're doing something actively, you're
Right.
not going to be focused on wanting to relax, really. So, as far as ASMR goes, that is like an in the moment alone time moment
Mhm.
where your brain turns on and it activates that trigger. And sometimes, even for me, I could be in a conversation with someone and I may hear something like a tapping of the phone or tapping on the table, and I might lose focus of the conversation because that trigger will activate and I will start to disappear from that conversation. It doesn't happen all the time, but there are definitely some moments it does that, and most times it what happen is when you are experiencing like fatigue, like if you don't get enough sleep, things
Right.
like that.
Right.
But it's different for everybody.
Huh. What about you, Forrest? Like, do you have these triggers? Do you have sounds that just kind of like stun you or mesmerize you? And you listen to sounds all the time, right? That's kind of what you do.
So, okay, maybe this qualifies, maybe it doesn't, but there's music that I can't get out of my head. Like over the past couple, I'm not kidding. Over the past couple of years, especially after I turned 40, I noticed that there are just some songs, and it could be a game soundtrack. Like for example, right now as we're talking, I was playing a game earlier. As we're talking, the track from the game is still just going in my head. I'm hearing it as we're doing the show.
Right.
And it's comforting because it's a good track, but it's on repeat and I can't make it stop. So, I mean, I've even gone so far as to ask my therapist about it. And his response is, well, Aaron, do you get enough sleep? Well, no, no, I
Right.
don't, because I'm on Kybercape. No, I'm kidding.
No, yeah, no, that.
But that's part of it. I guess that would qualify. It
Are you
is
experiencing a trigger?
I mean, I don't know if it's really a trigger. I can tell you that as it's playing in my head right now, it's comforting.
Well, it's comforting and
See,
yeah.
that's very
It's kind of
interesting
weird.
to me because when I hear the word trigger, I think of something negative. I think of something bad. Like,
That's what social
Right.
media did.
That's
It's
what.
a
They turned that word into a bad thing.
yes, yes. The social media absolutely turned
Trigger
that
is
word into a
just
thing.
trigger
Right.
can be positive and it can be negative.
Mhm.
In this sense, this trigger is a positive statement
Right. Right.
because it's something that makes you feel good.
Wow.
Like,
So when you say you feel good, like, do you mean that you actually like have like a dopamine release where your body actually literally feels good? Like,
yeah, and then it'll eventually make me pass out.
really?
Oh
So
yeah.
don't don't play soothing music while you're driving. Keep
Um,
it all
yeah.
hard rock.
No, can't do that. I gotta have the hyperactive stuff.
You
Yeah,
know,
driving
go
can be
ahead.
an ASMR too. That's the other issue.
Right. Forrest, what'd you want to say?
I think another way we can look at it as is you can picture it like a massage. You know what I'm saying? Like you could picture it as there are certain points your masseuse is going to hit, on your
Oh
back, your
yeah.
shoulders, your neck. And there are those, I guess, as Mercedes was saying, trigger points.
Right.
So with the ASMR, there are certain sounds or songs or, whatever that can bring a level of comfort, but it can also take away a level of stress,
Yeah.
especially after a work day. We come home, if we're working a day job, we're working a night shift, we're working whatever, we come home, we're going to look for something that's going to de-stress us more often than not.
Right.
I look for those things. Even my son, get this, my son found it in 80s Japanese pop. No joke.
Wow.
Like there's a way those instruments are played, it's the way those songs are sung. It brings a good soul-filled feeling to him. And it actually, it's a good sound to me too. Um,
Mhm.
this a way a guitar is played or a way a certain chord that's hit on a piano, it's almost like sad songs, like they
Right.
hit those sharps and minors on the piano and it's a really sad song, and like as soon as they hit that climax, you're just like you're
Yeah.
Right.
crying. It could be like that
ASMR
too.
is definitely like it's like your type of it's your own personal therapy in my opinion.
Yes,
It is
Right.
your
yes,
own and there
absolutely.
are like I said, there's a variety of different kinds of ASMR, and the one other one I want to bring up is called Reiki. Reiki, I'm
Meditation.
not exactly sure where it comes from, but there are a lot of ASMR videos that involve Reiki and people who say they're Reiki masters, which I'm going to believe because I want to activate that trigger. And with Reiki, there's also that when you come home or that you want to feel personal with that person. And there's a lot of other ASMR videos where they have affirmations and Reiki, and the videos where they talk to you like they're talking to you and saying, how are you doing? You're okay. Things like that, where
Right.
someone wants to just hear that from somebody, anybody. They just want to hear that they're okay, and not just from their own voice, but from somebody else's voice. So there's also that. It can be therapeutic.
Well, we talked about that. We kind of touched on that last week when we were talking about YouTube and like gamers, and why some gamers are so popular. They're literally just sitting there playing a video game, which is something you could be doing. Why are some of these people so popular? And it seems to me, like I said, this person is coming into your house several hours a day, and then you're probably watching their old content too. So it could probably feel like you have this friend or this person that because you know everything about their life story. They're talking to you all day, every
Yeah.
single day. So I can't imagine maybe that is like a soothing thing.
It is a type of ASMR. Like for me, a long time ago, I guess you could say there was a phase of, hard life, and the YouTuber that I used to watch was Markiplier. I mean, a lot of people know who Markiplier is.
Hello, everybody. My name is Mark.
Markiplier. I used to fall asleep to his videos all the time. Like it had to be on. It had to be on because his voice and the way that he talks to his fans, it just felt like I was a part of that, community. Just the way that he talks.
Right.
Mhm.
Like he could be yelling and screaming in the back, but I'm still gonna, I fall asleep to it.
Right.
He's like,
Yeah.
hey, hi everybody.
And
It's
then
Mezzo.
he just left out of nowhere, and just like, oh.
Hey,
But yeah, there was that phase.
I was gonna say, going back to something that we talked about a while ago. You were talking about George Freeman's voice, or whatever, or Morgan Freeman's voice.
Morgan Freeman.
Have you ever heard the most fantastic audio you'll ever hear? Is Samuel L. Jackson reading a book called "Go the Fuck to Sleep"?
Yes.
Oh my God, yes.
Yes,
I was
have.
a preschool teacher when I discovered this book. And then when somebody told me that Samuel L. Jackson had an audio for this, I had to listen to this. Amazing. If you have not gotten a chance, go to YouTube. Of course, when we're done, stay here for our show. But then after that,
Stay
because it will be
here.
time to go to sleep.
It's not time to go to bed yet.
That's right.
Yeah, Go the F to Sleep was hilarious.
And there's follow-ups to that book too. There's Eat Your Fucking Food. And now there's the third one's Now There's Fucking Two of You.
Oh gosh, that's funny.
Yeah, so I guess it kind of makes sense that some of these sounds are kind of like I've always thought it was interesting how like on horror movies there are just certain sounds. I mean, it's got to be hardwired into us as human beings somehow, but there are just certain sounds, certain keys that are put together that are just horrifying, right? You hear them in a movie and some motherfucker's going to jump out with an axe at any moment and start hatching up, this virgin or whatever, because the music tells you so, right? And so
Sure.
I guess, and then sometimes you hear that sweet music and you see the little baby and, the little feet and all that stuff. And the music just is sweet and everything. Like music really has a strong effect on us, or sounds, I guess, in general, because there's nothing more creepy than hearing the sound of children laughing, but like at 4 a.m.
Oh, forget that.
Silent Hill happening in your house.
I just posted the link in the chat for Samuel L. Jackson's "Go the F to Sleep" for
Woohoo!
to look at after.
Definitely a must check out if you have not heard that.
I think that would make for a really good topic next time, is like how different types of music triggers our awareness.
Right.
Because music can be soothing, and then when music is played in a certain way, it's like we know that it means something's happening.
Right,
Mhm.
danger approach. Well, I personally have often I come from a background. I got started in public access doing public access TV. And one of the things that has always astounded me about movies in general is I feel like movies is one of the few art forms where you have to be a master of every other art form that comes before it, right? So like every shot is almost like a still painting. So you have to know, you have to know the rules of painting and balance and compositions. Music, you have to be a musician because you have to understand how the music affects a person emotionally. And if you're trying to rip their heart out, what that orchestra or that sound can do.
You'll
Dance,
know.
you have to know how to place your actors on the shot, so and how to
Grace.
get them to flow together. So sculpting, everything, every other art form you have to kind of master before you can become a master of film, at least
And
in
you'll
my
know if
opinion.
it's bad. You'll know if it's a bad sculpture. You absolutely will not. You will know. Go watch the B-rated movies.
It also kind of makes me think of like in video games, when when danger is going to be approaching, like you're gonna face enemies, you hear the music like start
Right.
to
Yeah.
hit, and you're like, crap. And then you've defeated the last enemy when the music goes away.
Right,
And then
right,
when there's a save point, guys,
Yeah, you're like,
health and ammo, save.
but the director can use that against you too, because they can like start building that music for like a jump scare, and then like nothing's there, and then all of a
That's
sudden you turn around and that's the scary thing.
yeah, and
yeah.
that's been a little overused in the last few years.
Yeah,
It has.
that is a immunity, awareness immunity.
Mhm.
Right.
Sometimes
Again, when we
it's
see things too much, that happens.
Yeah.
Right.
Change it up.
you'll get those games where instead of music, it's just atmospheric. Like just the sounds, not necessarily music at all. Just it feels like you're in the room when you're playing it. It's kind of like the game that was so big for it's still pretty popular, Phasmophobia.
Oh goodness.
You're playing it and you step inside the house and the atmosphere changes like that,
You
and you
need them headphones.
feel you and the headphones really make it.
You gotta have
You
that good.
feel like you're just in this place, and it's just really creepy, especially when the breath of the ghost goes like right
Oh
in your
yeah.
ear, and I'm
Right.
like, "Ah," you know.
Right. But
There's
the
another
what the
game similar
but,
like that.
but what does that mean? Does that mean that it's like somehow hardwired into us as human beings? Like, is that a thing of nature? And if so, why? Why is music and why is sound? Why can it have these emotional effects on people?
I think a lot of it has to do with what part of the area of your brain it stimulates.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Whether it be a memory that you got, like when you hear that, if you love Harry Potter and you hear the Harry Potter theme, you get like that serotonin boost, and so it makes you
Right.
feel good and happy inside. Even emotional, sad music gives you that serotonin boost. But then things that aren't necessarily music, that's ASMR stuff, like the ghost breathing in your ear or whatever, isn't
Ugh.
necessarily like, because there's cringy ASMR, and then there's the kind that you want to listen to that people like. And it's just that is not necessarily the part of your brain, but it also has to do with what physically feels like is right here.
Right.
For me, it's like
Too.
a phase. I could tell you my entire phase. Like role playing was my biggest thing, like medical, like cranial exams, like going to the doctor. I've always had like a really good, experience with just having a doctor check my eyes and touch my ear a little soft while they check my ear and things like that. I had a phase like that. And then the phase of, just someone touching my face. And my current phase right now is measurement checking. Someone who's
Hmm.
like checking and then counting softly with their voice and just, they're trying to
Really?
fit me for an outfit. Again, there's so many different kinds of ASMR. It really just depends on
Mhm.
you and if you let it and don't overthink it. That's the thing. Sometimes overthinkers will overthink that, wow,
Gloria just called it.
this is just dumb.
Yeah, sensory stimulation, definitely. Like that's what
Yeah.
like the and then you have people who have the overstimulation and do actually wear like ear protective headphones.
Right, right. We
Um,
were talking about that. Sometimes people with autism, some of the clients that I've worked with, you'll see people in the mall just walking through, and they're not even really playing music in the headphones. They're really just trying to dampen all
yeah,
of
it's
the
there just to dampen all
input.
the sound. My oldest, he's not on the spectrum, but he had hyperacusis. He's had
Hmm.
some hearing issues and stuff. And so when my husband's taken him to like a Kings game or like a NBA game, he wears the headphones to help with the crowd because it's so loud.
Hmm.
Anyway,
Right, right,
but yeah, that's what like those who create the games or movies or whatever, and you have the headphones on, and they use that ASMR to creep you out or to make you feel something. Same
Hmm.
thing with music and movies and games and stuff. The composer knows how to make you feel something, and they know the chords and like whether it be minor or major or whatever to give you that feeling.
Yep. Absolutely.
wow.
Sensory overload.
Hmm.
Forrest, you deal with this, I think, the most out of all of us. Are you thinking about these things when you're putting together a sound font? Are you trying to emit a certain feeling from somebody when they turn on their saber or they're swinging around, or are you just putting cool sounds together?
Both. It's both. No, you know something? It really just depends upon what the project is. If I'm working on something that is classic, sometimes, little spoiler, if you ever watched like the original trilogy on VHS and you can hear before it was edited, before it was all cleaned up, you can hear the little movie cinema pops a little in there.
Right,
Sometimes I'll slip that stuff in there and have that quality of audio lower it a bit so that when you're using your saber, you're back at that old 80s cinema, late 70s cinema experience. And
right.
people really appreciate that.
Do
It
they
doesn't
even
have to be
know?
100. Some do.
Some
Mm,
Some
do.
do.
A lot
And
don't.
Some do.
some
They're
can just
triggered, but they don't
sense
know.
something. They can sense it, but they don't know what it is necessarily sometimes too. It's very
Correct.
nostalgic.
Yeah.
Mhm. Nostalgia, absolutely. There's a font maker out there right now. He's been in the game 5 years longer than me. He goes by the name Juan Sith. Really, really great, super nice guy.
right,
His whole spiel is accuracy and nostalgia. He wants you to remember your VHS. He wants you to remember 1978. He
right,
wants you to remember that. You know what I mean? And I think that's a fantastic approach because
right.
if we all did stuff the same, well, that would be boring.
Right, right,
Oh,
right. One of my favorite, I'm really into, well, this is gonna date me. Really into like 90s trip hop music. And one of my favorite bands, Portishead, they recorded everything to old acetate tapes to give it the old crackly sound of like the old, stereograph records, vinyl records from back in the 20s, how they had that certain crackle to them when you played them. So when they
yeah.
recorded their songs to acetate, it gave all of their new songs this quality of being, you know, decades old. Say
So
Wong,
I
what's going on? Sorry.
so I have a question for everybody in here, and Van, I didn't know if you were going to ask, but so currently in all of our lives, what is some ASMR positively that triggers each of us? Van, what are some sounds that really get you, kind of de-stressed, get you feeling good, get you feeling like, okay, work sucked, but life's all right now.
It's kind of funny because before we started talking about this, and I haven't really thought about sounds and how they affect my life. You know what I mean? Like, but saying it now, like at first, if you were to say that to me, it sounds goofy, right? Like, okay, there's not really sounds don't really do that. But thinking about it, when I'm looking through my Facebook feed, if you see a cute little baby giggling, that always makes you feel good, right? I mean, I know it's very cliche. Certain things like a little kitten meowing, that always makes you feel good. I like kittens.
Mhm.
But I haven't really thought about it in those terms of like, does a certain sound bring me back to a certain situation, or um It's very odd. I do know. I find it interesting when certain songs can literally like make the hair in your arms stand up, and you can feel your skin tingling. And I I wonder how music. Obviously, it has to be tied into electricity somehow. You know what I mean? If it can literally affect your body like that, um, I thought that it had something to do with the math and music. You know what I mean? And somehow that affects your body. I was pretty high too.
Oh my goodness. I would say for you, like, if you haven't really delved too deep into it, I would say find some time when you do to really like go through and find that one trigger that really gets you. There's a lot of YouTube videos where they have like 100 triggers for people who have trigger immunity for them to find out which trigger is theirs, and then you can search up the one that triggered you and you could
Wow.
find a whole video on that one trigger and actually just let yourself take it in, like let
Wow.
yourself let go. That's the thing, you have to let yourself go in order for it to work.
Wow. Sounds like some cult shit.
i mean I mean maybe it is and I just don't know about that, but I mean
Well, so
it's
which ones are your triggers? Okay, so we'll go around the circle and keep going. Then we'll find out. Mets and fours what your triggers are.
mine specifically is measure tape. For
Right,
me,
but you said that was more of a recent one, right?
it is definitely the recent one, but it's definitely my trigger now.
Hmm.
Again, it's a phase. You have to find that trigger that's like getting you and putting you to sleep because again,
But what is it about the measuring tape? Like
I don't know, it's like whenever they
this,
sit there and they put that tape up there and they're counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and they're like, okay, we're gonna get your eye up here, eye up
so
here.
yours is a visual one.
It's a visual one, and then a bit of an audio one too with the whispering. So for me, it's role playing. Role playing is my trigger. Like having someone, because back then I love when someone played with my hair, or if you touched my face softly, you might put me to sleep. I got a massage one time, and she was massaging my face in a certain way. Other massage therapists have done it and they've never been able to do it, but this one recently was able to put me to sleep just with the way that she was touching my
Wow.
face. So for me, it's role playing, either a doctor's office, massage office, or again, a tailoring role play. Those are
Right.
my triggers.
Wow. Interesting. Mets, what about you?
Uh,
Sorry.
we're both doing it back and forth. It took me a
So
second. I accidentally put you on solo layout, and I was like, "Well, that's not how to make me the main one." So, gosh, triggers. Uh, I hate to say it, because I know a lot of people do this as masticating with your mouth open, chewing
Yeah.
like food, like
Good trigger. That could.
loudly. Like if it's not really loud, it doesn't really bother me that much. But if people are like smacking on something, I'm just kind of like, especially if they start talking to me with all of it in their mouth too.
Right.
Um, there are some days, and this is I think it's a bit of a mom thing, and if you have enough fur babies, it can be a fur baby mom thing. Is being touched, like you just my kid I have 2 children, and sometimes they're just all over you, they want mommy, and then I'm just like, "Stop touching me." So that's,
Right.
like, more like not necessarily hearing, sensory kind of a issure, but it's more like, "Just don't touch me."
Right. So
Gloria, it's both.
in this case though, but do you have sounds that I guess triggering? We were talking about how it doesn't necessarily mean a negative thing always when in this context. Do you have positive triggers like
Yes.
Oh,
certain
yeah,
sounds that just
definitely.
make you just feel
Okay,
calm you down?
my husband's singing. It's cheesy, but it's fun.
Aw.
I know it's cheesy. And then, like soundtracks from movies, probably more than shows, but movies, and some shows, but like hearing the Marvel Avengers theme, Harry Potter, hearing Star Wars, and stuff, just hearing the music from them makes me feel good inside because it just brings all those positive memories back of
Star Wars is
the
definitely ASMR trigger. Oh
yeah.
goodness.
And my oldest, he's not great at it yet. He's learning piano and he's sitting there ba 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 da, ba, like playing that on the piano. He did it for a
Right.
recital like a year and a half ago, and like hearing him play it, I'm just like, I'm a proud nerd mama. So like movie and TV show soundtracks are the ones that really get me.
Right, right. Mercedes, there's a question here. By the way, I want to say what's up, Gloria. Gloria is my homie from the way back. And I appreciate you tuning in. She's like the only person that I know from like my personal life that actually like tunes in. So Gloria had a question for you, Mercedes. She was saying, is it counting millimeters, centimeters, inches, feet, the conversion? Is that what's stimulating, or is it just measuring in general?
So what's stimulating with the whole measuring aspect is the role playing itself, basically. So it's not really in measurement. It doesn't matter what measurement it's in, as long as I can see them physically trying to like measure parts of my face or parts of my body while softly counting and then afterwards writing it down like that sound of, writing
The
too.
graphite on the paper.
Yeah, so it's more like the personal experience that makes it stimulating.
Oh,
So
there it was.
Sorry.
I'm going to sleep.
Very, very interesting. What about you, Force?
Well, here's a good one for you. So at various times of the night, I'll have to let the dogs out, and we've got like a pen out in the backyard. So if I'm letting them out at 3, 4, and it's just nothing but crickets and it's dark, I'm checking my back. Like I'm checking my back all the time.
Right.
But if it's 6:30, and I'm letting them out, and they made it through the whole night, and there's like this almost like this chillness on the wind, and I can smell the grass, like the dew, in combination with hearing the birds first chirping in the morning, and there's that echo of them chirping. That de-stresses me like
Wow.
so much, especially if I had just a stupid or a bad dream and I'm out there letting them out and I just hear those birds and I can just smell that grass for a minute. Oh, dude, that's like
Wow.
a that's like a okay, life is all right,
Sensory
Uh,
overload.
yeah. As far as music is concerned, I played a phenomenal game a few years back, and I still go back to the soundtrack nowadays. It's called Life is Strange,
Hmm.
and a buddy of
Oh yeah.
mine who I chill with actually learned a lot of it on his acoustic, and he just plays certain riffs from it and sends it to me, and I just play it on repeat because there are just some days, especially doing what I do for a living, like I need to be grounded. I need to be back. I need to be experiencing life and
Right.
not be reminded of death all the freaking time.
Right.
So
Right.
that's definitely one of those things. A very personal thing for me. I can understand where Mercedes coming from with having somebody in your bubble and
Right.
they're measuring and they're counting really slowly. It's okay, 1, 2, 3, 5. I can get that. Like they're like you are allowing them in your space. For me, I like not necessarily touching, but I like being held. Like I really wish my wife just randomly would just come out of the room and just wrap her arms like right
Yes.
around me
Um, yes,
and
that's what I'm talking about right there.
like I just want her to just for no freaking reason. Like I don't want her to come out here and just drag me to the bedroom and nothing like no. Just freaking hold me and tell me it's
I have the
fine.
same thing.
It's okay. It's
For
fine.
me, my
That's it.
my comfort thing is being is touch. My comfort is touch. So embrace, but of course not from someone random. God,
Right.
please
Right.
don't
Right. Right.
Of
Not
course.
don't do
not
that.
when you're walking through the subway.
No, my comfort trigger for like my significant other would be touch, to be held, embraced.
Mhm.
It gives you that sense of security, like we said before.
Right. That's very interesting. I have my brain is going like it's my ADD brain. I've got like 12 different ideas and topics. So one was about I had read an article about before about this specifically talked about the middle-aged man, how the middle-aged man is like the loneliest of all demographics of people, because they tend to experience touch less than, a lot of times with mothers and their children, they're hugging a lot more. Traditionally, a lot of times maybe the dads would be gone at work a lot, so they're not as physically, you're not hugging your buddies at work as much. I don't, maybe you are, I don't know, but I think it's the society, like, again, as we get wider and wider with the internet and having, being able to meet people from all over the world, we're also isolating ourselves more, and we're not, shaking hands now. With the virus, we're not even shaking people's hands anymore. We're not hugging people the way we used to anymore. That we seem so much so disconnected from our fellow person.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's also that's pretty much a buildup for a lot of people. They want to be. I feel like more people can open up and be honest as a result of this thing, and people just want to look. There are states that are on lockdown. There's states like mine where we're not, but there are still folks out there who won't shake a hand. They won't hug a neck. They won't meet in person.
Right.
It's sad. But I think there is an inner drive. There's a want, a need for people to experience that face to face, that hugging, that measurement, that bird chirp. It's all there. And I would say to our viewers tonight, you know, if it makes you feel good, if it brings you to a good place, if it brings you to that positive, where you're getting de-stressed, don't be ashamed of it.
No.
If
Yeah.
you're a big, bulky, 300-pound, nothing but Terry Crews muscular dude, and you're outside just listening to the birds chirp, man, get your bird on.
Right,
That's what I'm talking
Seriously.
about.
I will
That's
say
what I'm saying.
I
Yeah.
will say this though here, and I just thought of this. I hate to backtrack. Okay, so one major trigger for me, and it's like a major emotional trigger, and I don't know why I do it to myself. The videos where the military moms and dads come home and they surprise their kids, and the kids turn around and they're screaming and they're crying, they're like, "Oh!" They
I think
hug
I'm
and
immune to that one.
and there's this one where the father, every single time, he was like a general, and every time he saw his son growing up, he was like, "That's my boy," and he was out for a long, 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 long period of time, and his son, I think, got through the Air Force Junior ROTC, and his dad was not going to make it to his graduation,
Right.
and at the end of the graduation, they called him up, and from out of the back of the stage, you hear, "That's my boy," and he flipped out on stage, and I started crying, and everybody around me started crying, and the kid's hugging his dad, and it's like, "Oh, it's amazing."
Yeah.
Right.
I
So
think
that's a
that
major
again,
trigger.
see, that is something that I would say would not be for me because personal experience.
Yeah.
What, like being
For other
surprised?
people, but for other people, again, like everyone has a different trigger. Everyone has something that's
Yeah.
different. Because for me, the reason why it is an experience thing. For me, the reason why it's not something that would be for me that doesn't really touch me like that is because I grew up in a military environment for a long time and never saw anything like that from what social media was showing. So I'm just like, man, that don't happen.
I feel cheated.
Cheated, man. But again, like I said, this is a prime example of why this is a personal thing. ASMR is a personal experience.
Yeah. And don't
Right. I
be
mean,
ashamed of it.
I do get that it's a personal experience, but it also seems to me, look, if you and I, if all three of us could go to a movie together, right? And we could go to a horror movie together, and the music starts going, and all three of us start getting tense at exactly the same point, there's got to be parts of it that are not just individual, that are universal. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like, that's somehow, I don't know, maybe those sounds are associated to some kind of, the growling of an animal that used to eat us, so many thousands of years ago, and now we hear that as, oh my god, it's a scary sound. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Goodness, our ancestors.
All right. Well, let's see. I'm trying to catch up here with some of the comments.
Shrink my window, please.
So we have and we are right at about the 1 hour mark. What do you guys say? Do you guys want to keep going with this, or
We can move on.
should we move on to our next topic?
Next topic.
Pretty sure we went over everything that we needed to go over.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of these topics, I mean, every single week we seem to, we start off in one place, but it moves to somewhere else. And every time I keep thinking, oh my God, this could be a whole show by itself, just this one little topic. And we just like cruise right through it. You know what I mean? By the time we do one topic, we actually end up doing like 6 or 7 in a night.
It's not a bad thing.
This
Just
was
think
a
of
good
it as
session.
a topic under categories. I mean, subcategories. That's
Right.
good.
Right. Well, you know what? As long as everybody's having fun, that's all that matters. And again, I want to thank Mercedes and Forrest for being our East Coasters who aren't little bitches. And of course, Mezzo, who's backstage. We had people that were saying that they were. I guess there's a bug that's going around right now or something. So people were not feeling well
Rona.
tonight.
I
So
hate
our next topic. Oops, I just switched out of the banner. Oh, well, yeah. So ASMR. Was there anything else that we wanted to cover or talk about? Did I miss anything? All right. Our
Nope.
next topic for tonight was one, and this was one that we kind of started talking about. This came up out of last week's
That's right.
conversation. Are colleges, is the modern day college, is it a scam? Is it really worth spending all that money? Look, when I was growing up, right? Again, I'm going to date myself a bit here, but when I was growing up, I don't know what your parents told you, but I was told, look, you go to high school, you graduate from high school, you go to college, you graduate from college, you get a job, you live your life there, you get your retirement, and you die. That's like your whole life plan set out in front of you. As long as you got a college degree back in, say, the 70s and 80s, I mean, you could get a college degree in English literature and go get a job somewhere, right? Then it started getting a little more where, some degrees like liberal arts ones maybe weren't as as acceptable or something like that. But then now we're getting to the point. I think Forge, you were talking about how that there were jobs that just 2 months ago were saying that you needed a master degree, and now they're like, we'll take any warm body we can get. So really, I mean, so what the hell is the point of the degree then? Like, people are literally, going into debt. I've seen people who showed their bill to where, like, their bill was $30,000 for college, and then they made payments, and even after years of making payments, they still owe that almost the original amount of money that they owed in the first place.
I
Mhm.
believe it's a scam, honestly. But again, like Wong said, I do believe that it depends on the profession because you wouldn't want your doctor or your lawyer to, make a very dangerous mistake.
Right.
And then I think that there's a lot of other professions where someone is naturally talented at that doesn't really require education. I mean, it's helpful, but honestly, I've gotten through a lot of my career and profession without a degree. So honestly,
Yeah, but
for
you're
me,
like 12.
huh? Huh? What?
I'm saying you're a spring chicken.
Well, either way, I don't really like the things that I've learned in school compared to what I'm doing in my job are literally there's so many cut corners.
Right.
They don't teach you about the cut corners. They teach you, oh, well, you may go through this, but most of the time it's not that. I mean, it teaches you the basics, but I feel like a lot of times it's all hands on. But again, it really does depend on the profession because for lawyers, they need to go through, extensive learning and training in order to, win your case. you don't want someone who's never gone to, take the bar exam or take, study for lawyer things. You don't want that to be your lawyer, do you?
Yeah. What are your thoughts?
We're probably going to spend an hour on this one. Okay, so honestly, what your goal is in life heavily depends upon what you're educated in doing. Nobody goes to college to work at McDonald's. Okay. Nobody goes to, I'm serious. Nobody goes to college to work at McDonald's. However, people can go to college to run McDonald's. There's a
Exactly.
difference.
That's
You can
true.
go and you can wash dishes and you can be freaking great at it. Just a disclaimer, ladies and gentlemen. You're gonna find that I'm like the PG-13 guy. I'm not gonna drop the F-bombs or anything like that, even though I'm on After Dark. Okay,
Leave that
I'm
to
talking
me.
straight to you. No, but so you'll hear me say freak and darn and everything a lot, but I'm kind of, if they don't say it on Avengers, I don't say it. So it's just a
Right.
respect for
Hey,
my household, you
Moon
guys.
Knight, man. Oh, you said Avengers. Never mind. Not Marvel. I was gonna say Moon Knight
Avengers.
was getting there. I heard shit the other night.
Did you really? So anyway, yeah. People don't. I guess okay. I guess McDonald's is too generic. Let me give you an example from my own life. Okay, so my day job, obviously at night, I make fonts. And funny enough, my experience from where I went to college assists me in understanding how I make fonts. That and my family has been in music for generations. But so I work at a funeral home currently. And if you want to be a funeral director in this state, you need to have an education. Okay. I come to find out that from just about every funeral director I've worked with, they do not teach you at the program how to talk to families. They don't teach you
Nope.
the contracts. They don't teach you the math. They don't teach you any of
Practical
what you're
use.
going to go. No, they teach you how to freaking embalm. That's what
Right.
they do.
Yeah.
And then when you get to the job, your senior embalmer is going to say, no, we don't do it that way. We do it this way. Well, this is a trick that I
Exactly.
learned back in 75. Oh, this is a trick I learned back in the 90s. None of it from what you've learned in school
Right.
applies to the funeral home. And a lot of guys come in and they're like, well, I don't want to embalm. I just want to deal with families. Well, they don't teach you a friggin' thing. They don't teach you the psychology of it. They don't
Bedside
teach you the
manner.
contracts. They don't teach you anything. You basically go in and you sit with a funeral director and you wing it. And
Right.
lots of our guys have winged it. They've wung it, you know. And it kind of makes you wonder, why in the blazing blue freak did I just spend $8,000 for a semester on labs? You know,
Right.
like
Do
you know,
you
you're
in that
you're going
field? Do
over.
you?
Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. In that field, do you have to have like state certifications to be able to work in that industry?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that gets my thoughts. We'll talk about that in a second. But go ahead, please.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go back around to McDonald's. Let's go back around to any chain. Okay. You don't have to have a college education to wash dishes, to flip a burger, to mop a floor, to run the cash register.
Right.
However, if you are the senior accountant who's working for the district manager and you got to run the numbers and you're responsible for making sure all your stuff is correct at night and the guy's got to take your stuff to the bank.
Right.
Well, yeah, that they would expect that you are mildly educated. I could understand the purpose in that. You know, you got folks who have business degrees who run privately owned chains. You got those, like those Pizza Huts that are owned by Mr. and Mrs. Such and such. And yes, they have to follow corporate policy, but they also can run their building their way. They can make rules, to who's going to do their books. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So
Mhm.
when we ask the question, is college a scam? Yes and no. Sometimes and sometimes not.
It's
It
a determining
really,
factor.
yeah. In our comments section over here, some folks have mentioned it just depends. First of all, it depends on the school. It depends
Yep.
on what you want to major in. It depends on what you want to do with your life. Um,
Exactly.
what and honestly, And
the
this is the
problem.
suck part. This is the
Mhm.
suck part. It also depends on how competitive you are and your competitors are. How
Mm,
bad do
You
you
are.
want to do what you want to do? Because
That's true.
because you know, some places will only take the top of the class, the best of the best. Oh, this guy had a higher GPA than this guy, even though you're both qualified for the job. There are places that do that. And if you didn't make the grade, even though you got the certificate or you got your associates or your bachelor's or your master's, if your competitor scored higher than you did, chances are they're going to get the job. And that's just
right.
how, and that's petty.
I think
Uh,
that turns a lot of people off, especially in the younger ages too. For me, I think the biggest problem with our education system is that you are told that right after high school you need to go to college, right? But you're still not sure what you want to do or how you want to do it because you haven't been working hands on with whatever it is that you're trying to do.
Right.
Like it's a lot of people will end up wasting money switching majors multiple times because
mhm,
they find out that what they're going into is not what they want to go into. So I feel like personally it's a scam because that was my personal experience with college was you need to go to college right after high school. You talk to your advisor, "Oh, well, I think for you you'd be good in business." And as a young-minded person, I'm going to follow that person, the advisor, so
Right.
to and I'm
They're the
going
ones with the knowledge.
yeah, I'm going to follow everything that they say and then realize down the road halfway through it that I'm like, absolutely not.
Right. Right.
Absolutely not. I mean, it's like for me, I'm more of a hands-on person. I need to actually see it because I've worked in places where everything they've said in the books or said in schools are nothing like what they say. They don't
Right.
teach you the necessary things that you need to know. They teach you the basic fundamental functions, but they don't teach you the possible cutting edges
Right.
because business is a wing it thing. You
mhm.
need to know how to adapt and adjust to every change because the world changes, you're going to change too. Prices, inflation, things like that. Or when you can't, for example, I work in purchasing, I order parts. I mean, you're not taught on how to like what to do when you can't get parts. You're of course the obvious common sense is that the line is going to stop. You're going to lose money the more that the line is not running because you can't make the sales if you're
Right.
not assembling.
Mhm.
So they only teach you the basic function, the fundamentals of the job, but they don't teach you the worst case scenario parts.
Mhm.
Right. When I was I got my state license to sell car insurance so many years ago. Fire and casualty license insurance is what it's called technically. But I remember I had to go to school for like 2 months and take a state exam. Aaron, this is why I was asking about certifications earlier.
Mhm.
I had to take a state exam and I just remember, I'm sweating bullets to try to pass this exam. I have to, this is me trying to get into a new career. And then when I actually got into insurance, like like maybe 5-10% of all that crap that I just went through, these months paying to go to a school to study for so I could pass the state board exam so I could go work in this industry. And you don't even use like 90% of the information that you just went to school
Right.
Correct.
for all of this. Like almost every job, you learn kind of on the job, even if it's a retail job and you go from place to place. Every place is still going to have its own nuances. And I remember when I was a merchant marine, and this was like 15 years ago. So I remember coming into ports in Oakland and talking about the crane operators and the guy that would take lift that would be up in the crane way up in the sky. He had a very, very dangerous, or that person had a very, very, very dangerous job. I'm not taking anything away from him, but that person at that time was making $80 an hour. You know what I mean? I was like, and that, they didn't necessarily need to have a master's degree for that job. That's one of those jobs where you kind of know somebody or your family's been doing it forever. And, you know, you just kind of have an in there. But you know, a lot of these jobs you don't have to have. And I would even argue, if you look at it, some of the biggest companies in the world are from college dropouts, right? Bill Gates dropped out of college.
It's a
Um,
skill.
right.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
gotta have the skill. Like, again, like I've seen people do the same position I do. They can't keep up with it. But I don't have, and they have education and a license for it.
Right.
I don't. So I don't have
Mhm.
the certifications for the job that I'm doing, but I can do it because
Right.
I can
Right.
comprehend and I can understand it.
You're trainable.
I'm trainable. Yes, that's it. You need to be trainable. Like, but again, this kind of topic is like it's also a dependable thing. Depends on the profession, depends on you.
Now,
Right.
Van, I'm going to take you to last week again because I'm going to beat a dead horse with this. Okay, what Phoenix and I were talking about with the YouTube thing. All right, she made a phenomenal point, and I will give her all the credit in the world for saying it. There are people out there who do go to school. They will go to
Right.
fine art school. They will go to film school. They will get through it. They will get their bachelor's, their master's. They will assemble a crew, a team. They
Right.
will, dude. I have seen some phenomenal, and I mean amazing YouTube horror short films that
Right. Right.
blow our current stuff out of the water, and the production value and the creativity has been magnificent. I mean, there were small budgets that went into this. There was editing work that made camcorders look like, a couple $1,000 movie cameras, right? So you've
Right.
got costumes, makeup, you've got filming, you've got writing, you've got all a good team of 10, right? And they make this super spooky film, and it freaks everybody out, and they touch on things that like they don't touch on in even rated R movies, and it really kind of shocks us to our cores. And they get a couple thousand likes and subscribers.
Right.
Okay. And then you've got Ninja, who's on Twitch,
Right.
screaming at his TV, playing Fortnite,
From his house.
and from his
He
house,
really is.
who started with a really crappy camera. And I'm not going to call out. I'm not just going to call out Ninja. I'm going to call out. What was it that oh, somebody last week said it. It's like hitting the lottery.
Yeah.
Anthony. It was Anthony. Anthony had mentioned, sometimes these folks just hit the lottery.
Right.
You and my friends and I, we like to say, you got these guys making asses of themselves on their phones, and they get 1 million views, and they get
That's how Jackass started, right?
and they accumulate all of this popularity, because they say something that, back to our previous subject, triggers people, and they're like, you think the way that I think, and then they get this huge subscriber base. The point of my saying this is this: here's the film guy and crew who went through $90,000 of college, and I'm talking 1998 to 2010. I'm not talking today.
Right.
$90,000 of college, truckloads of debt. They assembled everything they needed to do, everything they've learned, plus their skill set, talent, everything, and they put together something beautiful. And it gets a couple thousand views because YouTube and other social media are the main forms of what we look at. And then you've got Dashy, who's cussing and playing a video game and screaming into his microphone,
Right.
and he's got 6 million subs or
Right.
So
60
there's
million
one
subs.
thing I want to do mention about when it comes to social media and views and things like that is a lot of times some of them can get away with botting. Majority of them have a bot follow base, and a lot of them
Yeah.
start off that way. So like you say, a team spends all their money, all their talent making this beautiful creation, and then you have some other individual who knows how to break the algorithm of the internet by botting.
Mm-hmm.
And that botting, what it does is it puts them at the top of the algorithm over everyone else at the bottom. The
Right.
internet is oversaturated.
So at the end, okay, you've got YouTube, who then
Mhm.
sends the team a few bucks because they got some views, but the guy who makes an ass of himself gets a check for 1.4 mil per month.
Right.
And that, I mean, dude, I don't care what you say. 1.4 mil, you never have to work again. If you know how to play with money, 1.4 mil, you will
Right.
never work again.
Nope.
I can stretch 700,000. Okay, I know how. But 1.4 mil, and these cats are making it monthly versus the team. And I'm just telling you right now, the team is going to feel gypped. The team is going to feel gypped. Matter of fact, there's a popular YouTuber out there right now, group of guys, RDC World 1. And they made a skit about a game creator. Same idea. They put together a beautiful, like, Horizon Zero Dawn level video game, and it's got like a AAA release, and it does really well. And then the guy who broke off from their team just made like a little Stickman mobile game, and he just made over $5 million overnight. And that's kind of the example that I'm making. It's like,
Right.
how do you respond to that? And you end up asking yourself the question, well, if all I have to do is show my ass on the internet, then what the freak is the point of going to school?
Right.
And
Or
I
what's the
think
point of
that's
trying
where
to
we
do quality work?
and that's where we fall into, is college a scam? Well, yes and no, but it's also part of knowing, what do people want? What is their trigger? What do they want to look at? And if
Yeah.
people, if as long as people's needs are met, and this is something that I've had to learn, as long as people's needs are met, or what they deem to be needs are met, they're going to go where they need to go for them to be met. Whether it is to somebody screaming into a microphone while playing Fortnite, or going to a beautifully done, 4K cinema style, yoga meditation, whatever, like an Ip Man sort of
Right.
movie, but people are going to find what they're looking for, and the media will pay handsomely for it. And I think that's, and that goes to where we are now.
Right. Right.
I'll shut up now.
We're definitely in a different time, because before, you didn't have social media, you didn't have any way to really connect with other people before my time. So I guess it's really different now, because now we have more options to connect. And I feel like a lot of, like, with the college, so to speak, that job wise and internet wise has to do a lot with connection.
Right. Right.
Like, it has a lot to do with the connections. Like, a lot of people that, if you think about it from a business perspective, I guess, even if the person that they're seeking for a job, they want to know if they can trust that person, even if they have that degree in that field. They
Right.
don't know whether they can trust that person, and they would probably they'd rather hire their best friend's daughter to do the job than someone who is overqualified to do that job.
Right. Right.
So
Well,
I
to me,
feel
that's what a degree was for, or at least that's what I thought a degree was, especially since, they said that 70% of people who got a degree didn't work within the field that they studied. So to me,
Mhm.
what that used to
Yeah.
mean was that you're just basically proving to your employer that you have the longevity to stick it out, that you're not a quitter, that you would be a good employee. And going back to something Aaron said much earlier tonight, I remember talking to someone before, and we were talking about education. In my background, I was a preschool teacher, and I was like, do you think millionaires? Of course, I only, I don't know a vast number of millionaires and multimillionaires, but do you really think that they're talking to their kids and telling them that they need to go to college so that they can go get a good job? No, they're telling their kids they need to go to college so they can run a good job, so that they can run a corporations. And in that case, it's really not about the education they're getting, but the connections that they're making at that college with
Yeah.
other future leaders and, you know, sons and daughters of major corporations who will one day take over those corporations. So
Right.
really, the college isn't about that. You're paying for your connections.
That's true.
Correct.
All right. Well, now that that's settled.
See, if they teach you like that in school, maybe a lot of minds would be changed. Another
Right.
thing that like they don't really teach you though in school is like when you want to do a specific job, like you could do general studies, but then when you're looking at a specific job, it's going to have an outline of certificates that you need to get. And then it's like, well, that's, extra expenditure to do. And they don't really tell you that in college unless you're really talking to your advisor. But sometimes
Mhm.
your advisor doesn't know everything.
Right. And they're
They're
part
gonna
of the
know like
system too. That's how they make their money.
yeah, they're not gonna know everything, but they're a good entrepreneur. They're good at talking you into what they believe is a good fit for you. But going through the process, you're studying the fundamentals of the job again, but you're not really learning like the necessary things that you need to know in regards to what certificates you need for a specific job,
Right.
Mhm.
And then I feel like with business, I feel like business is really a personal thing. Like you just got to be good with talking to people. You got to be good with persuasion, negotiation, things like that. And you don't really know until you actually do it.
Right. You know,
There
I
is
I'm a business owner right now. You know, Fours is in the same position. You know, I none of this stuff, and I've taken business classes in college, and they talk about it, accountants and thresholds and things that you're trying to do, but it's not real world experience. You know what I mean? And I don't remember. I want to say I may be completely wrong. I want to say it was Kevin Smith, but it was some director that had said, look, you can take $100,000 and you can go to film school, or you can take $100,000 and go make a film. And I guarantee you're going to learn a lot more by going out there and just actually making a movie, even if it's not the big budget, Hollywood movie you want to make. You're going to learn a lot more just by getting out and doing it, as opposed to spending 4 years in some building somewhere listening to a professor tell you how to do it.
Exactly, because
yes.
you're learning from one mindset. You're learning from one person that wrote the book to tell you how to do it in a specific way, when you really should be open to doing it your way, in your own unique way. Because if you try to do it based off the one mindset, you're just going to follow steps instead of being the one in the front of, being the leader of that,
Right.
being the unique uh part, again, like with the movie, like you go out, you spend all that money to make the movie, you are learning it for yourself. You're learning to make it in your own unique way. And everyone might like it that way, but if you do it the one mindset, it's just going to look like everybody else's previous work.
Mhm.
Right.
It kind of makes you ask, where are the innovators? Or here's a better question: are they allowed to be innovators?
Right. The do's and do nots.
Right.
Mhm.
And that kind of, I was listening to one of these YouTubers, and they were talking about kind of like the Marvel effect, and how you get companies, obviously a film company, their first priority is to their shareholders, right? They are more worried about the movie making money than they are the artistry of the movie. At the end of the day, they want to make money. They're a business, right?
Mhm.
So they were talking about the Marvel effect, how when one movie is popular, then other companies try to emulate that. And what starts happening is that you start getting movies that start looking more and more like each other, even though they're from different companies. And that's the reason why, instead of a Robin movie, you have 15 Batman movies, right? Instead of
Yes.
trying something that might be different, which actually to me is what makes Marvel successful, is that they're not afraid to try some of their C level and D level characters and really flesh them out. Whereas a lot of DC, they're so worried about a movie flopping that they just keep going with the same formula, and unfortunately, they're not doing it right. And so, um, I, I think I just my train just jumped off the track. Someone want to pick
Not
me up here?
do that too.
That's funny.
No. So
um
anyways.
yeah. So anyways, here I'm gonna throw you in and throw you under the bus.
Oh my god, no, I'm like I am under the bus. That's the thing. I need someone who's on the bus. So I guess I'll just pick it up on a random topic then. I am a stegosaurus.
That was random. I will give you that.
Oh, I'm a random person when I'm foggy brain, so comments and try to pick ourselves back up here now.
So let's see.
Wait, you know what? I got one. At
Yeah.
work, we were talking about this. So we were talking about Bill Gates, right?
Okay.
So we were talking about how you have a programmer, right? And then you have someone who is an entrepreneur. So Bill Gates wasn't the one who made Microsoft. So it was an engineer, his friend. He ended up, buying that from his friend. And what he did was he hired him on as, an executive programmer because he is good with programming. He's not necessarily good at entrepreneurship.
Right.
So with why entrepreneurship is, important is also like with Kim Kardashian as well. She didn't make her apps, but she's the face of that. She has other people do it.
Right.
So it's like if you're a really, really good programmer, you gotta work with someone. You either have to be you can only do one thing. You can't do both. You can either program or you can be an entrepreneur. You have to have that connection. So it's like, dang, this sounds like a topic.
In the end, I think it takes, I think it
Again,
takes the ability to be able to talk to people. You can have a dream, you can have a vision, but if you don't know how to connect with people, it's not really going to matter. I mean,
Exactly.
you look at George W. Bush, Jr. The guy was not the sharpest crayon in the box, but he was the president of the United States. You know what I mean? Like, you will always have the C student who is the head of the corporation above the A and B students. And it has nothing to do with ability to, do you really think Jeff Bezos knows how to run any machine at Amazon or the Washington Post for that matter?
Yep.
You don't need to.
Exactly. Like everything just is. It's so. If you made it, you made it, and if you don't, it's a sink or swim. Because again, I'm not gonna. It's. I don't know how to really say. Like, if we're overpopulated, we all can't do the same thing. If it's oversaturated.
Okay, so you make a very good point, and here's where I can push our topic into something a little more risque. All right, I did this last week, man. You got it.
Oh wow!
Let's talk about that. Okay,
right.
let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the TikTok girls. Let's talk about the gamer girls for a second. All right, and I'm not coming at this in a judging way. Okay, I'm coming at this because what we've talked about thus far is how do folks with an education or without an education do so incredibly well? One of the things I said was you are meeting a need. You go to McDonald's, you have a need for a Big Mac or chicken nuggets or whatever, and they will meet your need. Okay.
Right.
There are several million unspoken people, not just men, people with a need. And these folks, and it's men too, with their freaking 6-pack abs, and I hate them. They meet a need. Okay.
Right.
It's all, and one of our folks in the comments section, okay, yeah, Steven, I hate that IG lets the bots that I've never heard of don't follow, invite you to private chat. I call them insta whores. Okay, so I'm not gonna use that terminology, but how easy is it for someone who wants to doll themselves up or oil their body up and get their cleavage showing really, really well, or get their muscles showing really, really great, all Terry Crews style, to be playing on a game and screaming into the microphone and get all bouncy and everything. And they got it, and they got an OnlyFans, or they've got a private YouTube channel, or they're on Twitter or whatnot. And how easy is it for them, for their oh god, it's late. I can't even think of it. The donation, the donation website. What is it?
Right. Are you doing Patreon or?
Thank you. How easy is it for them, for their Patreon, to fill up like that?
Right.
You know.
Do you think that leads, as kind of a side note, do you think that leads to entitlism? Do you think because of how easy it is?
On whose behalf? On whose behalf?
Well, you know, like I hear these stories a lot of times how like you know, this like a person will walk in and say, "Oh, you should give me a free dinner at your restaurant because I'm an influencer, and if I, mention your restaurant on my IG page, your restaurant will blow up." You know what I mean? Like, do you feel like the fact that these people get this money so easily for just doing nothing, that it leads to entitlement, to feel like they deserve things that they really don't?
I think that there is a point that a business or an individual will reach to where they will come to this conclusion that if they do a favor for somebody with a lot of subscribers or a lot of money or a lot of whatever, that they're they'll be better. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm so trying to avoid that vocabulary.
Dude, you're on After Dark. Let it flow.
Yeah, we're gonna.
So how much better is Carl's Jr. gonna do? Okay, if it's funny, I live in Florida. We don't have Carl's Jr. We have Hardee's. So saith the fat guy. How much better is Carl's Jr. gonna do after Dame's Drops does a stellar review on their Angus burger? Dame has millions of people who watch him and over 1 million subs, and he says, "What's up, y'all? I got this burger here and it tastes so good. Y'all need to fly out here to my boys at the Carl's Jr. and pick it up." And all of a sudden, Carl's Jr. is getting some business.
Right.
So is it their own?
That's the proper word. It's sponsorship.
Sponsorship. So you've got all right. So let's take it back to Van's question. You got an OnlyFans person, right? And you get a bunch of followers who come in after their 120th video, and they're like, "Okay, well, we're on OnlyFans now, and we've been following you, and we've donated so much to your Patreon. How about you show us some skin?" So does the entitlement come in? Yeah, for some people, I think it really does. They donate so much, or they show up so much, or they feel that they've shown this sense of loyalty that they are deserving of extra perks. You know what I mean? Like that friendship with benefits.
That is a problem.
And you know what, Mercedes, you're absolutely right. That's a huge problem. It's a huge problem. A debate. There was a debate I got into with a coworker concerning the subject, and we kept it civil. We didn't argue. The question she asked me, and I really had to think, and I'm still thinking about it, is OnlyFans and the girls who do the gaming with the cleavage showing, and they're not even about the game. They're about the money. Okay. They know that their attractiveness is going to bring the donations.
The cleavage is everything, apparently.
The question I was asked was this. Comment section, pay attention. I want to hear y'all's answers too. Do you believe that form of media is a form of prostitution? Is it? Is it a form of prostitution? Because there is some exposure happening. They're exposing themselves. They are trying to, yes, and they're trying to attract the opposite sex or the same sex by playing the game and getting all jiggly or oiling up their body and, getting all Terry Crews. I hate them.
Was Marilyn Monroe a prostitute, even if she never took off her clothes for the camera? For
Marilyn Monroe, when she showed skin?
She was selling her body, right?
That's a very good point to bring up. That's very good. And so can we view OnlyFans as a form of prostitution? can we view it that way? Can it be viewed? That's something to
See,
think
they're
about. Van, what do you
I,
think?
I think the fact that you're asking that question informs us how you feel about sex work in general. Um, you know, first off, I don't have a problem with prostitution, dude. However somebody needs to survive, I don't knock their hustle as long as they're not hurting somebody else. You know what I mean?
Right.
Um, I often think about that, like because like people have these OnlyFans page, and I've never been on OnlyFans, but I think like, why would I pay for a subscription to see one person get, even if they're getting naked or masturbating, whatever it is they're doing, when there's like free porn on the internet? Like there's got to be some psychological
They
connection,
want the
maybe.
live. They want that personal feed, probably. I don't know. I see it
But
as a
is that
way.
how OnlyFans works? Is it I thought it was, is it photography, or is it live
I'm
video, or
not
is it?
exactly. I never even delved into
Me
OnlyFans
neither.
at all. I didn't really want to know much about it. I just know that the way that the way things are going with what they're doing with their fake gaming and showing skin, cleavage, things like that. Another form of it is, it really depends, because if it can hurt a relationship, so to speak.
Yes, it really can.
It
Yeah.
really does hurt relationships.
I personally, I know it exists and I know people do it, but I see it as less of a function of, you could say it's the e-girls, or they're just out here playing video games with their boobs out or whatever, because they're gonna get money. But if it
Correct.
wasn't video games, it would be something else. It
He's
would
right.
be it would be anything. I think that's less a function of OnlyFans itself and the video streaming services than it is of human nature. Look, if a guy is gonna, if a chick is out there with her boobs out playing a game, doing something you enjoy doing, a guy is gonna watch that. That's just human nature. You
It's
know what I
gonna
mean?
come to their feed. They're gonna want to go through and see, because they know how to attract that kind of attention, and they
Mhm.
know that is what's going to be the current, you know, their their pay in a sense.
Mhm.
Steven says OnlyFans is definitely a form of prostitution. And
Interesting
Definitely,
view.
it
I
is.
don't. So then, what's the question? What then? To me, the question is, what is the definition of prostitution? Does that not mean that there has to be physical contact?
So, according to my coworker, and this is why we had a very interesting debate. My coworker says if you are receiving funds for delivering um, the chemical response your body has for the opposite sex, basically if they succeed in turning you on and getting you there, and you're paying money for that, she feels that
So
is a
so
form of
so
prostitution.
Aerosmith is prostitution. When I listen to a song that changes my chemicals and makes me feel something, that's prostitution.
Yes.
He says, so you're like the ASMR queen. I guess you're like the queen of the whores then. I mean, because you're saying that what you do, and I'm not saying what you do is sexual, but what I'm saying that what you do changes people's chemical compounds, right? It releases hormones and it makes them feel comfortable. It makes them feel safe or feel a certain way. So does that denote prostitution?
I mean,
That's a
maybe
phenomenal
not.
point.
That
It's a great
that is
discussion.
an interesting topic. I want
Yeah.
to like, again, I want to go back to, because I don't know how we got to this topic, but I guess
In
for me,
business, we got to this
From
topic by
college to
business,
prostitution.
from
for
college
me,
to prostitution.
really, really hurts. Like, the more that we're able to have access to these things, it really depends on the relationship with the person. Because, if you're focusing on another person, that, and you're also paying for that, I mean, it could really detrimentally, hurt a relationship. But of course, other people, it all depends.
Now,
Right.
Van, I have a question,
Yes.
because as it pertains to your viewpoint, are we removing people's sense of morality? Are we removing barriers? Are we removing, the lines that are drawn in the sand, and we're just calling it for what it is? Or are we taking into account those, like Mercedes said, those interpersonal relationships, the fact that, you know, maybe the dude who's paying to see the gamer girl jiggle is hurting not just himself financially, but hurting his
Expectations.
relationship with his wife. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Or hey, look, I'll take it a step further. It could be hurting his potential relationships of finding future partners. You know, definitely,
Yeah.
definitely with content of that nature, it's natural for people who view it a lot to be expectant of their next partner to replicate that behavior that they are seeing
Exactly.
and paying for. And no, it's
Right.
not every person. And I'm not. Don't
Again, this is depending. Yeah,
y'all
yeah,
don't
yeah.
give me any crap. um, you know. So my question, Van, is: when you make the point of um, you know, is the chemical stimulation, is all that, is it considered porn? Is it considered prostitution? Well, she's the queen of the whores, or I'm the king of this, or, are we removing human morality from it? I guess is my
Yeah,
question.
Right.
exactly.
Because
And
but when you're talking about that, my next question brings you to this.
Sure.
When you were talking about how does it affect other people's lives, right?
Hmm.
If the preacher of a mega church is asking you to send money and it is affecting your life or it is affecting your relationship with your wife, does that make the preacher a prostitute?
That's a very good question, and that's a
He's
very good
affecting your
point.
life, right?
It's
Or
affecting your
or
life.
maybe potentially. That's why I have a problem with calling it prostitution,
Hmm.
or really
let's
getting
not call it
the
prostitution.
understanding what
Call it
prostitution is. Because for me personally, prostitution is the exchange of a physical
Mhm.
sort, right? If I'm watching somebody on the screen and I can't touch her, that doesn't necessarily make her a prostitute. To
Hmm.
me, that does make her a sex worker. I'm not saying
Hmm.
that what she's doing is not, or he or whatever you like, is not sexual. But what I am saying is it's not necessarily prostitution. There is
No.
no way that I'm going to get AIDS or I'm going to give that person some sexually, kind of disease. Now, I may put myself in trouble. Maybe I have an addiction and I'm spending way more money on this website than I should be. That's called being a simp. I don't
Hmm.
really know if I don't know if there's a cure for that.
I mean,
I
it is a high thing that the addiction is becoming more common,
Yeah.
and why it's becoming a problem because it's setting a lot of expectations and also building a standard for what we believe beauty should be. And another issue I have with it, especially with the OnlyFans thing, is a lot of girls like to dress up as if they're under 18 as well. So it kind of builds a bit of a problem with older,
But again, that goes back. That's not a problem with the girls. That's a problem
mhm,
with the guys,
Mm,
because the girls do it. The girls wouldn't do it if that's not what the guys wanted. I
as
don't know what episode it was, but I said we were talking about porn or something, and I said the only reason they have the 18-year-old categories because they can't have a 12-year-old category. You know what I mean? Like
oh,
if it was legal to go younger, some freak out there would be doing it. You know what I mean?
truth. Yeah.
yeah,
So
but then again,
Yeah.
like with even nowadays too, with the porn, with the porn industry, there's even been porn stars that have came out and said that, they technically regret their decisions in a sense, I
Yeah.
guess.
well, I mean,
So,
Jesus, the biggest, one of the biggest names. Oh, geez, I say the biggest names and then I forget her name immediately. Um, like the Middle Eastern chick with the glasses. She's really fit. Mia. Oh God, she's really famous. But I think she had only done like 6 or 7. Mia Kaufman or Khalifa, something Khalifa.
Mhm.
Um, she had only done like 6 or 7 porns, but she was so particular in her genre, Middle Eastern. She had big boobs and she was really cute and everything. But she was so specific that she blew up and was really popular. And like, trying to get away from that, she's forever been stigmatized as this woman who has done porn. I
Future kids, things like that. It's like, if they go to school and they've seen they're like, things like that of that
I don't
nature.
know. I personally think our problem in society is our problem with porn.
Yeah,
Um,
in the whole
yeah.
aspect.
So
From
so let's bring this home. Let's wrap it back around to why I mentioned this. So
To college. I'm sorry.
so okay, so the OnlyFans site is at its core a way for people who are on film to make a paycheck or make money from the site from whatever. And what they are doing, as we spoke of before, what they are doing is the girls or the guys, they are meeting a need. So they get on, they pick the controller up, they get the low cut, or the guys, they oil themselves up, they make themselves all attractive, and they are meeting a need. There are people who feel they need to view these people in in an environment that sexually stimulates them, and they
Right.
will donate to the Patreon. So there you have the exchange of the funds. So to bring it home to business, yeah, and some people feel like they need to do that to make that extra money because they can't make the rent on the Burger King paycheck or that gas station money, or it doesn't matter what job you have. I'm not going to stereotype it. You're working at a job, a job, and you
Right.
make your paycheck and you give your damnedest, okay?
Right.
And it's not enough. So you put yourself on the OnlyFans and you show the skin and you get some viewers and people from college to porn back to college. Darren is
Whoops.
awesome. And then you have the exchange of funds, and then they make their money from their OnlyFans payout, and that's where we are. I like Van said, everybody. You take all the morality out of it. You take all the lines out, and that literally just is what it is. It's they are meeting somebody's need, and that need will be met provided they pay for it. I mean,
Right.
that's just factual. That's scientific. That's exactly what it is. Um, the debate came from my coworker, and she asked, because when I brought that up to her, she was like, "Well, is that prostitution?" And clearly, I mean, just from our awesome conversation, guys, by the way, thank you for having this discussion. No, Van, you made some fantastic points, dude. I'm glad that we were able to have a civil conversation like this on the internet without getting all like freaked out and upset and angry.
Right.
Because guys, these are factual things that are happening in our world today. I know there are, and it's scary. We're old enough. We have kids, and our kids have probably been exposed to it.
Oh yeah.
Their friends. This blew me away. Okay, and I'm not naming names here, but my kids believe there are some of their classmates who are involved in it.
Yeah,
And
that was another issue in my
that
high school.
scares me, guys.
Yeah,
These are kids. They're making themselves look 18, 20, 22,
exactly.
with the wigs and
But they're not
and
actually 18, so it's a problem.
right. And
You-
that scares me.
I think
It
it's
is.
kind of
Breaks my heart.
it's kind of a scary self-perpetuating cycle of like, a lot of these, first off, it's getting harder and harder to get a job. We've talked about how hard it is to get a job with a damn degree, right? Let
Yes,
alone
absolutely.
without a degree.
Yeah.
It's hard to not only get a job, but to get, I mean, even there is no place in the United States that you can rent yourself an apartment on a minimum wage, working 40 hours a week. Nowhere in the country can you do that. You have to have a roommate or be married or have some other, maybe have a second job to be able to afford an apartment. So, I think we've gotten to this point where like, I used to say it with because before I did this I was a spoken word poet for a while, and we'd go into the studios, and in the beginning I was renting studios and going to professional engineers. But when studio software started coming out for the home computer, and let's face it, Forrest, you wouldn't be doing what you were doing if you couldn't do it probably from your living room, right?
You're
If there wasn't
absolutely right.
software available that made it common or available to the everyman or every woman to have, then there wouldn't be people like you. Now, the flip side of that is not only does it give people who have amazing hidden talent that gives them a chance to tap into something, it also gives people with no fucking talent to tap into those same tools in industries. And unfortunately, what happens is a lot of those people breed this mentality of like, well, I can still make an album, or I can still have an OnlyFans. I don't need to be a porn star and go to Hollywood. I can just set up this this page. I'm not talking bad about sex workers at all. I know plenty of single people who may be a single mother who have no way, she can't leave her child at home to be able to go get a 9 to 5 job. She has no family or friends to help her take care of her child. So maybe OnlyFans is all she can think of to do right now to support herself while she's stuck at her house with this child. You know what I mean? There's lots of
Yeah.
reasons people do what they have to do. I personally don't think anybody goes to sex work like right off the bat. You know what I mean? Like, I think I'm going to go fuck people today. You know what I mean? Like,
well, you'd be surprised. There are some people in my high school that were just like, I'm gonna go straight to it, like
wow.
just right off the bat. But I'm telling you, like, the thing with the problem with that is that maybe they do that for the rest of their life, but they're not always gonna look the way that they do for the rest of their life. And what becomes a problem in their later years is them actually getting a professional job. They're not
Right.
going to be able to because their face, their body is going to be all over the internet.
Yeah.
Right. And
Everything.
the other thing that I have to look at, you were talking Forz about, do I hate on these people that make this quick money? Yeah, to some degree. Come on, I'm human. Of course I get jealous.
I
to some
didn't
degree.
ask it like that.
But I mean, like, to some degree I don't, because these people that are trading on their bodies, that's going to go away eventually. People that are trading on talent are only going to grow their talent. So if what you have is going to naturally, decay, then your money, your profit stream is also going to naturally decay.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I mean, those individuals, we all have our own, points about it. We could say it as if, we care about their future, if they'd rather sink or swim. But I don't know. It's a really, really interesting topic.
Yeah, like
Hey.
This person, Lightsaber, says, personally, I think OnlyFans should shut down. No respectable individual would do OnlyFans and tell their family about it. If they do, that's a dysfunctional family. That is a very, very, very good point. But you know what? I think most people come from dysfunctional families in one form or another. Our dysfunctions aren't always obvious to other people, but what you don't see behind closed curtains sometimes is, and I'm not, Lightsaber, you have your own opinion. I respectfully choose to not agree with that. Because like I said, there are people in positions that maybe I can't even imagine right now that, they're going to do what they got to do to make some money, whether they feel good about it or not. And you know what? I know plenty of exotic dancers that will come out and tell you they're exotic dancers. They're proud of what they do. I know burlesque dancers that love what they do. So just because society has taught us that these things are dirty and evil, that we can get into, we can have a whole show about religion. We'd have 5 shows about religion shit. But a lot of what we dictate by society and culture that is good or bad is dictated on the environments we grew up in, right? When I was in Italy and France, like, you'd see boobies on commercials. You know what I mean? It wasn't
That's
any
true.
big thing.
See it in movies.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But because of that,
Videos.
it wasn't that big of a deal, right? Like, kids weren't freaking out about it. Like, a little boy here is freaking out about seeing boobies on TV, right? But like the little kid there, it's like, we just go to the beach and there's boobies everywhere.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. And I think God, I don't want to go off on another tangent, but that's a cultural thing as well. There are cultures that teach that the body is beautiful and it should be respected. And there are other cultures that believe, no, the body should be covered and it should only be meant for the spouse.
Right.
I don't know where we are in America.
Really, in America, I really don't know either. Like,
where we are, we're hypocrites in America. I think that's
We are
the one thing.
hypocrites,
We like to say that we are Puritan. We like to say that there are, we have these values, but behind closed doors, we're completely different people. I think that's the biggest thing. Americans, like, and I'm not bad mouthing my country. I grew up here. I love this country. I love some of the things that we have here, as certain general services that you can't get everywhere else. But God, I always say, God, this could be a whole nother show. We're right at the end of this one, but I always say, America hates their young. America eats their young. As much as we want to talk about the future and the next generation, we don't do enough to protect our youth and our young when these solutions are right there in front of our fucking face. We know what to do, but we choose not to do it because we honestly don't give a shit. If we did give a shit, we'd be doing more.
My
Right.
mom used to say, before she passed, my mom used to say, she would always say, teach your children. That was her biggest thing. Those were her biggest 3 words. Teach
Right.
your children. I'll take us back to education for a moment here. I personally, this is just my personal belief. I personally believe that in public schools, and even in the first year of wherever you go to college, there needs to be some life skills being taught. And when I say life skills, I mean there needs to be a curriculum that should go into things like writing a check, like
Okay.
going to the
See,
bank, like
it's
going.
stupid bullshit like that lets me know that you don't understand the purpose of the school system. The school system has nothing to do with educating you or making your life better or making sure you know how to be a grown, responsible adult. The school system is meant to put you in a factory so that you can be smart enough to run a machine, but not smart enough to take over the company. By the way, put you in a
Yeah,
factory when
yeah,
factories don't
yeah.
exist anymore. School system was designed, developed, and has not changed in over 120 years.
But
Unfortunately,
Van,
we
do
don't
you
live in that world
remember?
anymore.
Do you? But hey, look, you and I were in school at relatively the same amount of time. I mean,
Right,
you and I were in school in the 80s and 90s. Am I correct?
right, yeah.
Okay, so then do you remember? Bro, do you
Shop
remember?
class and home ec
No,
class. And...
home ec. Thank you.
Heck,
Dude, I had home ec in 7th grade, and we actually touched on the ATM. It was more than just baking and sewing. Like, we talked about real life stuff that our parents did. Like,
right,
they didn't, of course, because of personal reasons, they didn't have checkbooks for us to write checks, but we talked about it. We talked about going to the store. We talked about using math at the store to buy laundry detergent and factoring in things that we as kids at that time were not responsible for using in the home. That's kind of the stuff I'm talking about here. I had one class in college near the very end. It was basically a resume class, but the teacher took the liberty to tell us about the competition that would be outside beyond the resume. He taught us about not just displaying your skill set on paper, but how to make it charismatic, to actually show the people you're applying to what they're looking for, even if sometimes it's not even there. Marketing yourself. That's why I think, back like when I was in school, they had some of the life skills. And let's be honest, dude, doing laundry and being able to cook your food and gassing up your car and, okay, not writing a check, but maybe handling your online bank account. These
right.
things are important. And I think they should be assisted in being taught. Yes, the parents obviously have the responsibility before the kid turns 18 to dad and mom are going to train on this stuff. I completely agree with that. But I think I think the school system could absolutely throw a new perspective on it.
they could, but Van's right. Like, the school system definitely is trying to not have us overthrow the empire.
That's a shame because doing laundry and gassing up your car and knowing how to use a bank card, that's essential, and I think essential things like that should be taught or
They don't want
assisted in being taught.
I agree with you, but have you ever stopped to think there's an advantage in keeping people stupid?
I
They
don't
gotta
want to live
see
in
if
that
the
world.
smart ones can get out.
Hey guys, man, we could go on for another 3 hours. Unfortunately, I think it's like 3 a.m. where you guys are at.
2 a.m.
Two.
Hey,
I love Friday nights, dude. I feel like, dude, you never know where the conversation is gonna start and where the conversation is going to go to.
Love it.
I want to tell you, dude, first of all, I'm very grateful for you guys having me here tonight. Number 2, I can't tell you how grateful I am that this conversation stayed civil the entire time. We were able to talk about things that we clearly don't agree on in some points, and we're
Right.
still friends at the end. Go figure.
Well, I mean, that's
We
what's
were
supposed to happen,
arguing.
right? Isn't
Exactly.
that what America used to be?
Yeah. And that's why I love being
Get
here,
me
because everybody has a different viewpoint, everybody has a different belief system, and we can call each other on the BS on some stuff, but like we learn, we don't just learn about each other, we learn about the past, and we learn about, like, with the whole ASMR thing, we learn what we're vulnerable to, what we're not vulnerable to, and it's really good. Like,
Yeah,
this was thank you both. This was very enjoyable. I
we
really,
open
really
up
enjoyed
paths,
this.
we open up things that, because what do you call it, close-minded.
Right.
We
Yeah.
open up things that we don't normally think about on a daily basis, is what I feel is the biggest thing here that I like.
Right. Well, that's what we hope to do every Friday night. And, you can never tell who's coming in. Some of the people that we have in our cast tend to be a little more conservative. Some people are extremely liberal. Some people are, kind of in the middle. But that's what I like about this show is, I mean, I think to some degree, we are all those things, right? Not on every topic am I going to be a completely liberal. On some topics, you might look at me and think that I'm a conservative or something. You know what I mean? It's the same way with each one of us. We all have those topics where maybe we feel a little bit different, and I like having a place where we can come together, talk about things that maybe are a little bit uncomfortable in normal polite company, and still feel good about it and come back again next week and bullshit about something else.
All
Hey,
right.
that's why it's after dark, right?
That's right. That became after dark. So hey, on that note, guys, let's go ahead and start wrapping up. Marce, do you want to any last words or shout outs or things you want to let people know about?
Check out my Instagram, Sleepy Sapphire Official.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
Check out her music. And then I didn't know you were into ASMR. I might have to check that out, but honestly, like
That's
a
on my
lot of that shit
YouTube.
makes me cringe.
Yeah, it's cringe too, because you know me. So
Yeah. All
you
right, my
guys
friend.
too. Sleepy Sapphire ASMR. Find it.
We always appreciate having you on, my friend. Fours, what do you want to say?
If you guys are in the saber community, if you're thinking about lightsabers, if you want to get one of these things and you want some sounds that are different than what comes on it, I have a website, forsfx.com. Also check me out at saberfont.com. There are several magnificent artists. Please support them. And also, if you build sabers, my work can be found on saberbay.com. But as you can see, I'm not just sabers. I'm part of this group now.
Woo! Yeah.
So, but yeah, good show, guys.
Happy end of the
Wonderful.
month.
Woo! Oh, yeah, it is the
Woo.
end of the month. As we get ready to come into May 4th is this weekend, guys. This is like the big day this is like Nerd Christmas. May 4th is coming up this week. I want to wish you all a happy May 4th. For me, it's a double whammy because my favorite actress in the world, her birthday is May 4th. So happy Audrey Hepburn Day to everybody on that day. And make sure to check us out. We will be here Sunday. We are only like, I want to say we're like 8 subscribers away from the next Saber giveaway. So if we get like 8 more subscribers Saturday and Sunday, that means Sunday night we will be giving away another Saber. If not, it'll probably be next Sunday. Every 50 subscribers, we give away a new one. So make sure to check us out at youtube.com/Kyber K Productions and twitch.tv/Kyber K Productions. Make sure to check out kybercave.com for all your Saber needs. And we will be back. Well, we will be back here next Friday at 9 p.m. after these guys have gotten some sleep. But I will be back this Sunday at 7 p.m. So make sure to check us out. Thank you for everybody who tuned in tonight. Tonight was a very, very fun one.
Yes.
Woohoo! Oh, and Matt's grandson's birthday. Woohoo! All
Happy
right.
birthday.
Okay, so I'm gonna do. Sorry, I'm not used to directing. Usually we have like a professional. So this is our. Oh. Oh man, I was trying to be cool and have this thing like ready to go, but apparently I'm not prepared at all.
We were in the moment.
All right, well, I'm just gonna shut this off then. All right, see you guys later.
May
Peace,
the
y'all.
fours be with you.
See you later.